toxic masculinity.
The federal government is being weaponized against people now, like Rudy Giuliani. I mean, it's unbelievable. Darling, could you kill the cat, please? And with that, we end the news. But we are not done yet, because I would love to read the questions and comments that you guys have presented to me throughout the broadcast. But of course, I can't keep track of Super Chat, so I've lost most of what you've said. But I'll try to read what I can find here. Mark in Alberta writes, I think I'll start an OnlyFans, and if you don't sign up, you might be transphobic. That's too funny. I thought it would be funny once if, because I heard about OnlyFans, and I thought somebody told me about it, and I thought it was like just like a site for like strippers or something like that. And so I thought it'd be funny because it sounded just like a regular social media site. I thought it'd be funny to do a sketch as if AOC signed up for OnlyFans, but she didn't know that it was like a pornographic site. She's just like, hey guys, so I love social media, so I just thought I'd start an OnlyFans site. But then somebody said that it wasn't actually just a pornography site. Like there was lots of things people did on there. So I thought, well, this sketch won't work. Yeah, it's just a joke about how stupid AOC is, but I didn't know enough about OnlyFans, and I still don't, if I'm honest. Market Alberta says, hey, fatty. He's right, I'm fat. Okay. Downstream says, you're going to watch Biden's address. I'll watch it. I mean, I think it aired when I was doing this stream, but I'm going to watch it, yeah, for sure. Frank James writes, when the internet was new, I used to argue with Americans about whose country did what. I inadvertently tricked myself into learning history so I could brag about my country. That's actually pretty funny. Yeah, I kind of did the same thing, except I didn't do it to argue. When I was young, I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to write for Hollywood movies, and I wanted to write novels and all that kind of stuff. And so I would write novels, and I would write film scripts and all that kind of stuff. And what I found was that when I would write about a particular region, like if I'd write about Paris or something like that, if I'd never been to Paris, which when I was a kid I had obviously not been to Paris. Well, maybe not obvious to you guys, but I hadn't been to Paris. And so what I would do is I had dictionaries. I had this big dictionary. This is kind of before the internet was easy to use. And I would just have pages open, like 6 books maybe, open on my bed. And I would just have them open to different subjects. And I'd be reading about different places and different things. And I'd have maps and all this kind of stuff. And I use all my research to be able to write about like a location or write about a point in history or something like that. And I would write it in such a way that it was so well researched that I didn't think that anybody could look into it and say, that's not accurate. I didn't want anybody to to break apart my movies or break apart my novels and say, oh, this is all wrong. Like this guy got all this stuff wrong. So I was like, I kind of is in the same boat. Like I was forced to educate myself about a lot of things I didn't necessarily want to research, but I felt like I had to make the scripts that I was writing accurate. So it's kind of funny how jobs can do that. Let's see here. Let's move on. Dark Crusher writes, I'd like to have a beer or something with you because you share a lot of my views, kind of like the Hank Williams Jr. song, Dude from the City, Dude from the Country. Good combo. Yeah, thanks, man. I'll tell you what, I am from the city, but I'm not from the city. I live in the city, but I'm actually from Oregon. So that's probably why. I grew up, literally riding horses and dirt bikes. That was my life as a kid. A lot of dirt bikes. A lot of horses. We went snowboarding all the time. I had a buddy with a beach house, but it was basically like a rundown shack. And so we'd go to the beach and we'd go crabbing. I don't know if you guys... In Oregon, crabbing is kind of popular. You'd throw these crab pods in. We'd go fishing. We go crabbing. We'd go hunt for clams. Clamming. They call it clamming. And... yeah, we did all that kind of crap. I grew up in the forest, so I was always like running around the forest, climbing trees and stuff like that. I spent probably the first, 5 years of life that I could stand, at least a good percentage of the time in a tree. 'Cause I loved climbing trees as a kid. I love climbing trees and digging holes. Kind of weird for a child, but, I always get the shovel. I don't know why I like digging holes. It was weird, but kids like weird stuff. All right, let's see here. But yeah, I'd have a beer with you, man. Let's see here. Mason Goliath writes, what reason did he give for being an agent, for being against interracial marriage? He didn't really give a reason, but from what I understand with the white nationalists, I watched a YouTube video with a white nationalist talking about this once, and the position most white nationalists have about interracial marriage is that white people are depopulating. And the reason we're depopulating is because we have fewer kids than we have people on the planet. So in terms of like the white population of the planet, we're the only race that has fewer than 2 kids for every 2 people on the planet. So the people who are getting married, even if they're having more than 2 kids, it's not making up for the number of people who aren't having any kids. And our average reproduction rate is something below 2, 2 per couple. So we're not repopulating the current population. We're depopulating. We're slowly going away. And if you marry outside the white race, then you're not having, and you have a bunch of kids, you're not having white kids, right? So the white nationalists, they like the idea of more and more white people. I don't think that's actually not a particular, like, I don't think it's a bad thing to want, because if somebody were to say, oh, well, the country of Mauritius is being depopulated and they're being overrun by a different culture, and in the next 50 years, if they don't start having more kids, we're going to run out of people from Mauritius. People from Mauritius are not white, but I would still think that was bad, right? I would still say, okay, well, we want to have more people from Mauritius because, we want to encourage breeding, because we don't want to see that culture go away. We don't want to see that people go away. But the thing about white people is, despite the fact that we're reducing in population, I think there's just so many white people in the world. I don't think that we're going to depopulate anytime soon. The real fear, I think, is for countries with a heavy immigration policy to eventually be outnumbered, be overrun by other populations, and then they become minorities in their own countries, right? Countries that they are if you have a native population of white people in, say, Luxembourg, and Luxembourg becomes overrun with Syrian Muslims or something like that, or I don't know, Moroccans or something like that, and the whole country just becomes Moroccan, and you have just like a small number of white people who, maybe they no longer control their own country. To me, that's sad. I like to see the preservation of cultures. I like to see the preservation of peoples. And so I have some sympathy with that concept of you don't want to see a particular group wiped out. I just don't see it as a danger at the moment. People look kind of like really far into the future and they say, oh, well, if things keep going the way they are going. I don't get spooked that easily. I mean, it's kind of like climate change to me. To me, it's a little bit of a hysteria. I don't get as spooked by that as some other people. I also don't think white people are particularly great. I mean, some white people are... I want to write a book, no joke, called White People Are Awesome. But that's because I think as a group, we have done some amazing things. And certainly there are a lot of white people who are awesome. I mean, absolutely awesome. But there's also a lot of awesome people from every race. And there's a lot of a-holes in the white race. And there's a lot of a-holes in every other race. So to me, the race thing isn't quite as important as other things. That's my perspective. But I do sympathize with the idea of wanting to preserve culture, wanting to preserve race. I talk about that a lot on the show, and I agree with the white nationalists in some ways. But yeah, I think interracial marriage is great. One of my best friends is half Japanese, so if I hate interracial marriage, I got a problem. All right, let's have a look here. Frank James writes, okay, that's a great point. Can't find someone of my own race. Marrying a different race will only produce racially superior children. My mom used to annoy the hell out of me because when I was a kid, she, mixed race kids in Oregon was actually quite rare. My buddy Ryan, who I said who was black that I grew up with, he was actually mixed race. His mom was white. But we did have a friend who, for what, I don't remember what the situation was. I think he was white, but he had 2 black kids. Like he married a black girl or something like that, and she ended up leaving, so it was just him and the kids. Or I don't remember exactly the situation. It was a guy from church or something like that. And my mom would always go on and on about how beautiful the kids were, and she'd be like, "Oh, the mixed race kids are like the most beautiful kids." And I don't know if that was like a trend at the time that she was repeating or what the hell was going on. But I was always just like, "Hey, Mom, I'm standing right here. Okay, the most beautiful kids are obviously us." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Mixed race kids are the most beautiful kids?" I found it like mildly offensive. That's what my mother thought. ZZ the Boxing Cat writes, what's your opinion on Nikki Haley? I like Nikki Haley. I haven't seen anything to dislike about her. The problem with a lot of conservatives that have been around in DC for a long time, it's like sometimes they have one or two views that you're like, well, that's a little weird or suspicious. And you never know if they're actually sort of like compromised or they're part of, the establishment, and you don't want that. Nobody wants that. Yeah, Yankee the Rebel writes, I've heard she's a rhino, but I haven't cared enough to look into her. Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I don't know enough about Nikki Haley to have formed an informed position on her. Yeah, I'm not like a super fan, but I don't dislike Nikki Haley. Daniel J. Corica writes, Biden's speech was an incoherent, rambling mess. Apparently, he's now an America First former vice president. Oh man, okay. That doesn't make any sense, so I'm guessing that he said that or something like that. So I'm actually quite excited to look into that. Valeria's in the shower right now, so I can't get her to come say goodbye, but I think I'm going to say goodbye. We only got one super chat for the day. Well, Valeria would be very angry with you all, but I don't mind. I like not getting super chats because I kind of feel like super chats are a little bit, it's like, pay me so that we can have this conversation. It's so stupid. Like, I want to do that. I would rather just talk to you guys and not have the money thing in the middle. So I'm glad no super chats. But thank you, Daniel, for your super chat. That's very cool. Herbie Hancock writes, that's racist, Chris. I assume it's sarcastic. Frank James writes, white people are awesome. Yeah, toxic masculinity. What could possibly go wrong? Well, I kind of want it to be a provocative title. That's why I wanted to put it. Like, if I can get it banned in the UK or something like that, I can get good book sales. Frank James writes, we're overpopulated as a species. It wouldn't hurt to settle down on the breeding unless you're in Japan. Frank James, you're getting kind of warm in terms of, there's a script I wanted to write, and it's set in the future, and it's a future in which white people are bred almost to extinction. And so you have a certain group of people of color, as they call them, who run the world, run various countries in the world and whatnot. And they've all decided that there is one city in which white people will be exclusively allowed to live without interference from anywhere else, right? So white people can live outside the city, but no one else can live inside the city. So only white people are allowed in the city. And but the problem is that there's this overpopulation, right? There's overpopulation in the world. All the resources are going away, and the world is dying. And they're trying to develop technologies to take us to other countries and seed us to other planets. And seed other planets. And what they end up doing is every year they have a lottery, like a Hunger Games type lottery, and then they kill off like large swaths of people around the world. So like you'll get a number. And if your number is called that year, you got to go to a special camp, and then you're killed. And some people run, but they're almost always caught, and they're almost always killed. But every once in a while, somebody goes on the run, and they can't find them. They don't know where they go because they have all this digital technology, and they can track them, and they don't know how these people are escaping. Finally, at the end of the story, I'll tell you the twist, because why not? So at the end of the story, they do figure out how to seed other planets and how to get, to get it to be sort of like what the Star Trek would say M-class planet, right? To make it into like Earth. And my buddy's writing me. Nope, I haven't watched that movie. I will watch it though. So all these people go to this other planet, and they seed these other planets, and you have different races in different countries seeding different planets. So, you have like maybe Africans on this planet and South Americans on that planet and Asian people on the next planet over there. But they decide to leave Earth for white people. They say, white people, you can populate all you want, take over all the different parts of Earth, whatever. And what we find when all the other groups leave is that after all that time, the people who have been running away and escaping from this lottery, and they didn't know where they were going. Where they were going is they were being hidden by the white people underground in the city. So the white people were protecting some of the people that were in the lottery and not letting them get killed off. So anyway, I thought that was kind of a nice story. But I don't know if I would write that story. I mean, it's like, when you're a writer, you come up with like 1,000 different ideas every week. So that was just one of them. I have no real interest in writing, specifically racially charged scripts. But I do have this desire to kind of fix the way the world thinks about white people, because there's this like bizarre idea that like white people are so evil, and they're not. You know, some are. You know, some are evil. Some are evil. By the way, I'm gonna end the show on this. This is a weird thing. I looked up I was watching a video with one of the Beatles. Who's one of the Beatles that's alive? Paul McCartney. I was watching this video with Paul McCartney, and I don't know why this occurred to me. I was like, don't some people think like the Beatles sold their soul to the devil or something like that? And I always thought like, I wonder if John Lennon sold his soul to the devil, because he does seem kind of weird, like he might do something like that. So I look it up, and it's like it's like a thing, right? It's like a known thing that John Lennon sold his soul to the devil. Like he like admitted this to his friend, and this was like a known thing somehow. And I didn't really do a ton of research into it, but that's weird, right? I don't know how true that is. I didn't go into a deep dive. I'm not really into like the, you know, investigating the supernatural. I don't like research aliens. I don't do the ghost stuff. I don't do the demonic stuff. I never read into any of that. I don't know why I looked it up. Just one of those random things. I was in the middle of something, needed a break, and thought, oh, let me look up if John Lennon sold his soul to the devil. So it's believed by many people that John Lennon sold his soul to the devil, and there seems to be evidence to support it. But the weirdest thing about it is that the guy who murdered him, what's his name? I forget his name. He's got 3 names. Chapman. Anyway. Mark Chapman? Something. Anyway. So this guy who ends up killing John Lennon apparently was like a Satan worshiper, and he felt compelled by like demons to murder John Lennon. And John Lennon had apparently made a pact with the devil to become a famous musician. It's weird, right? It's a weird story. So anyway, if you're into that kind of stuff, look that up. I don't know. I'm probably not going to research it ever again, but it's just one of those things that I felt a compulsion to look up. I looked up. I was like, holy crap! I wonder if this is actually true. Candace Owens might co-write "White People Are Awesome." It would keep you in the clear. Just put her name on it first. Mark David Chapman. Yeah, is that right? Is that his name? Anyway, yes. I don't know. I read about it last night late. It's one of those weird things where you go down a rabbit hole and then you're like, what am I doing? So who knows? Did John Lennon sell his soul to the devil? I don't know. But it's something, if you're interested in, look it up. It's kind of fun little goofy conspiracy theory that, see, to me, that's what the word conspiracy theory should be. Like, that's a lot more fun than this whole concept of a conspiracy theory being this like political weapon that we use to say, oh, it's a debunk conspiracy theory, you're just a psycho. It's a lot more fun to look up things like, did John Lennon sell his soul to the devil? To me, that's fun. All right, guys. You guys have a lovely evening. I'm going to go chat with my wife now, and I will see you tomorrow. And remember, I am toxic, she is masculine, and we are the least professional show on YouTube. Good night. Toxic masculinity.